us, and welcome. If you're not familiar with the Canadian Food Innovation Network or myself, my name's Alex Barlow. I'm the Director of Programs here at CFIN, and I'm excited today to tell you a little bit about our fourth Food Innovation Challenge, our first for this year, focused on cellular food here in Canada. So I see many of you joining, and just to recap, we will be recording the session. The French version is in the PowerPoint or in the chat, that you can view the PowerPoint there. The live transcription service you can click on if you want to watch this translated into French during the session. For questions, I will be taking them. And I also have my colleague Jaleh, who will be answering questions as well. So please use the question and answer box. That's the easiest spot to go in and enter your questions and ensure they get answered. And I'll be addressing them throughout. I've got my eye on them. Jaleh has her eye on them, and we'll either address them in a written response or live here during the webinar. So I'll go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, this presentation is related to our fourth Food Innovation Challenge. Our Food Innovation Challenge is sort of our keystone program here at the Canadian Food Innovation Network. And we release specific themed challenges where we're looking for collaborative projects or consortia projects, projects that involve more than one business coming together to solve either some common and maybe even individual challenges within this space. Obviously, cellular agriculture, we are calling it cellular food. I know there's a broad variety of terms being used in this space, and I am cognizant of that. We've chosen to use cellular food for this call, but we do include the broad suite of technologies that fall within that. Has received a lot of attention of late. And so we're excited to see if we can bring forward some strong proposals to benefit Canadian leadership in this space, given some of the potential that we have. So I'll go ahead and get started. So if you're new to the Canadian Food Innovation Network, that may not be that surprising, although we're gaining steam quickly. We're an organization that has been around for about the last year and a bit. I myself am just over a year in terms of my position in this role. And we are a national nonprofit, and we're a member-based organization. So membership to our organization is free. If you're not a member, I encourage you to go and fill out a membership form online, and I will be sharing a little bit on how you can do that. And so we are really looking to drive transformative and transferable innovation across the Canadian food sector. When we talk about the food sector, we are looking at post-farm gate. So we're looking after production. So we're looking at activities through distribution, processing, storage, retail, and even consumer experiences. And we're looking to connect the Canadian food ecosystem to new insights, ideas, and technologies to help elevate business success, improve productivity, through innovation. Some things to know about us. Again, if you're new or if maybe you're still learning about us, we're here to bring together members who care about food innovation. Again, we're looking at that food manufacturing, food service, and food retail space. We are doing this through a combination of people and technology. We're a fully remote organization. We do have a staff of about 16 people across Canada. In your region, you have a member lead, our regional innovation director, and I'll be talking about them later today. They're a great point of contact if you want to learn more about how we're here to help you, if you want to make connections, if you want to learn how to use our online tool for connection, something called Yodel. And Yodel is our digital platform to facilitate collaboration, information sharing, and build a stronger network in the sector. So as I mentioned, we're distributed nationwide. We have a regional innovation director. We have 5 of them. So Atlantic, Quebec, Ontario, Prairies, and British Columbia. And we have a national program as well. So if you are located in any section of Canada as a business, you're welcome to look at our programming. We have had great projects from across Canada already, and have a funding under our current programming until 2025 to support your goals. So what do CFIN members care about? I mean, it's a real broad topic. The food sector is extremely diverse. We've got some major verticals, of course, in food processing. Then we've got a whole diversity of needs across processors, but also restaurants. Everyone seems to be facing some similar challenges right now around sustainability, around labor. And we're looking at a lot of cutting edge areas outlined here, and I would say this isn't even necessarily an exhaustive list, but definitely a hit list for us. And obviously cellular food comes in under sustainability, around novel ingredients, the next generation food and drinks. So there's a lot of potential here in this call to touch on a number of areas that interest us. So we run 3 programs. Our Food Innovation Challenge is our largest program. It offers the biggest pool of funding with up to $2 million per project. So that's the largest amount of money we can give away to a single project. We're providing funding under this program to collaborations or consortia. So a single business may not apply on their own. They must come to the table with a collaborator. And I'm going to explain a little bit how we see collaborations requiring to work and how you could collaborate in a call such as the one I'm going to be describing today. And we're looking to help those 2 firms partner together, could be more than 2, to address either a breakthrough food innovation opportunity or even an industry challenge. So these calls are distinct. We've had 3 to date, 1 on supply chain, 1 on plastics, and our inaugural call was an open theme. And this one has to do with cellular food. And our upcoming call, our 5th call, will open later this spring, and it is targeted at food processing innovation. I've worked in government funding for a long time. I know that any government program is often a bit interesting for someone to navigate. We have tried to make the process and our tools as simple as possible. There are 2 documents when you're looking at our Food Innovation Challenge. So there's the program guide. It covers what costs are eligible, what are the eligibility requirements, the overall policies of the program, how we do our reviews, etc. And then there's the call guide, and that's very specific to this individual topic, to this specific theme. And it goes over why we've selected this call, what are our objectives, what kind of priorities we're targeting, what are the specific application questions you're going to answer, and what kind of responses we're looking for, what you should be addressing in those questions, the scoring rubric, and then how to use our online platform, which is how we accept and adjudicate and manage all of our applications. So our current call for proposals is titled Cultivating a Resilient Food Future, Developing the End-to-End Cellular Food Capacity for Canadian Global Leadership. Obviously, there's been a lot of emerging news in this space over the last year and a bit. We've got the first company in the United States getting USDA approval for their cultivated chicken product. We're seeing a large amount of investment. CFIN itself partnered with Ontario Genomics last year to run a small program called Accelerate, where we funded 4 Ontario firms working in the area of cellular agriculture. And so this call builds on that initial opportunity that we had to co-fund projects with Ontario Genomics. And we're looking at the emerging science and technology of cellular food. And obviously, for this call, that's the use of cell cultures, tissue engineering, or precision fermentation-based techniques to create food products that are traditionally produced through conventional agricultural production mechanisms. So there's a lot of terms that are existing today. I've seen new ones emerge all the time. We're using cellular food, but cellular agriculture, cultivated meat, cultivated food, cultured foods, cell cultured foods, bioengineered foods. I think everyone knows what we're talking about. For us, being very food focused, it was important to integrate that particular word. But understanding, of course, that I think the linguistics of this space are changing all the time. So what are the objectives of our call? So we fund research, development, and demonstration. So this call is here to support and de-risk those activities through funding for the demonstration of new cell food or precision fermentation technologies. So we're looking to drive solutions and late stage technologies to market. So it could be you have a solution and you're close, but you need to do some additional piloting and demonstration. We want to always be driving collaboration amongst private sector firms. This space has a number of common challenges that many companies are currently solving in silos. And there's a lot of potentially duplicated efforts as we look at some common challenges or even common barriers to further market development for these products. Things like consumer awareness and understanding, but also quality, safety, things like that. So there's a real opportunity to drive that collaboration, address some of these common challenges. Us as an organization, we're here to create Canadian-made solutions, Canadian intellectual property that will not only impact the companies involved in the project, but have potential to impact beyond just this project, beyond just the one or the 2 or 3 partners who come to the table to solve this. So some element of your project needs to be transformative. There needs to be potential to drive that wider impact. And of course, we're looking to transform the Canadian food sector with some new scientific advancements. So these are our, sort of broader objectives. We've identified some key program priorities or areas. We're not entirely limited to these. I understand the space is evolving constantly, but I will say that if your project doesn't have anything to do with cellular food or any of the challenges that are coming with the evolution of this space, it's not eligible for the call. So obviously, there's been a lot of discussion around what the potential economic impact is of this sector. And so, given that drive, we're looking for solutions or technologies that, could allow us to become a global player in biotech-based food production. So it could be around bioreactor optimization. It could be around texturizing and scaffolding, flavors and fats. Could be about cell line development, cell culture optimization. A lot of opportunities here around the sustainability, looking at closed loop opportunities using starch waste from plant-based protein processing as a growth media or a feedstock for these products. And of course, a lot of opportunities to deploy other innovative technologies around AI and machine learning to accelerate product development and consistency, perhaps at a lower cost. So I think there's a lot of exciting areas. We certainly if you have something that's in a fringe area of this, but it's still very much so in the cellular food arena, you're welcome to reach out to us and chat with us about it and see if it would be a fit. But keep in mind, we're looking at research, development, and demonstration activities. So how much funding is available? Each of our challenges typically ends up being in the range of about $2 million in terms of available funding. There's no set amount per se. We'll give out about that or less, depending on what we see in terms of high quality projects. We fund projects at up to 50% as a grant contribution to a maximum of $2 million for a challenge project. So we certainly see requests at less than that. The minimum request for under innovation challenge project should be $500,000. So a $1 million budget, it can go, your budget can go up to 4 million, and then you're asking us for the full $2 million in support. Our funding is done on a reimbursement basis. So if you're approved on a quarterly basis, you submit to us your invoices and proof of payment. We review those and make sure they're aligned with the project, with our cost policies, which we've all agreed to in our contracts. And then the federal government does the same thing, and then the funds are issued. So it is a reimbursement process, one in which you must wait to receive your funds. We do not offer any advances. So you need to be able to bridge your project costs and have a decent financial position in order to work through the project activities. Our funding does include a 5% project management fee if you're successful. So if your funding is awarded, 5%, a fee of 5% of that total project costs is provided to you. It's outlined in the contract at approval. It's not an eligible cost for your funding. We don't take it out of your funding, and it is paid by your organization once the project kicks off. So it's something to keep in mind, and just to, always needs a little bit of explaining. It's a little more common these days if you're ever looking at working with super clusters or many of the networks like CFIN. There's usually a management fee involved, and it helps go to our costs to run and operate these programs, bring in quality adjudicators, etc. So how do collaborations or consortia projects work? This is probably one of the biggest areas of confusion, and I understand why. It's sometimes hard, especially when we're talking about IP, to understand how we can partner together, or how one company's commercial goals might be shareable or workable in a partnership project like this. So we're looking, as I mentioned, for collaborative or consortia proposals where we have a minimum of 2 private enterprise businesses coming to apply together. Those companies might be sharing intellectual property or costs related to a common challenge or a shared opportunity. So you may have a complementary ingredient to another company. We're both working on a cellular food product, and you want to work to finalize development, I don't know, of a wonderful, juicy, cultivated meat burger. Or you might have some, other similar challenges. And obviously, I've got some examples here. You can come to a project like our challenge program with your own research goals as well as areas of overlap. It could also be that one of you is a technology developer and the other is more of a test bed. So some examples here, we've got company A working on a new cultivated meat product. Company B has a proprietary scaffolding technology and would like to license it to other firms. And A and B collaborate to test and establish the efficacy of that technology at both bench and larger batch scales. That would be a satisfactory sort of common element on a challenge call of this nature. Another one, company A developing a product via precision fermentation, but struggling due to bioreactor features and design, partners with company B to optimize the technology. So, again, here we've got some sharing, we've got opportunity for transformation, for proving out pieces of technology that either company might then take to market. My third example, company A and B are developing cellular food products, but both struggling with a common quality control and GMP issue. They partner to resolve this issue, and they work with a post-secondary institution to address this common issue, share costs and results. And then lastly, company A developing ingredient for cultivated meat partners with company B to integrate ingredient into their formulation. So we're still looking for R&D activities, but you have to have some shared elements of costs. And a big element to our consortia type projects is we don't really want to be funding you guys to bill each other. So it's not a service provider vendor relationship between the partners. The partners have a common challenge and goal. They may have their own costs in addressing that. They may have shared costs in addressing that. But what they're not allowed to do is come in and say, I'm company A and company B wants to buy my technology, and CFIN is going to pay for company B to buy that technology. So it's the billing in between you that would change this from a collaboration and move it into something that would be more difficult for us to fund. And obviously, this is an info session. I welcome conversations about this. It's very often with our consortia or collaboration projects under the challenge that we have a phone call to discuss what it is you're looking at doing and see if we can help you structure it to ensure that it aligns with our requirements. It's not always as difficult as it sounds. So who's eligible? So as I mentioned, we need a collaboration or consortia. That's going to be made up of multiple unaffiliated organizations. So if it's your sister company or your subsidiary, that is not unaffiliated, that won't work. But two unaffiliated organizations who are partnering to achieve an innovative solution. Generally, all partners are incurring some costs as part of the project. They might be sharing background intellectual property with other collaborators in order to achieve the proposed project objectives. We have to see some things as part of all of our challenge submissions. It has to be industry-led. We have some fantastic academic researchers here in Canada. Unfortunately, they cannot lead a submission to us. So it has to be industry-led. There will be a lead applicant and partners. Could be one partner, could be 5 partners, 2 partners, whatever you like. All of these groups need to be incorporated in Canada, and they need to be members of the Canadian Food Innovation Network. At least one of the partners must be a small or medium-sized enterprise or an SME. So that's someone with under 499 employees and less than 50 million in gross revenues. I think that will probably describe most companies working in the cellular food space in Canada. And as I mentioned, there has to be at least 2 private sector companies involved to form this base requirement of a collaboration. As we've been underway for about a year, we've distributed almost 10 million in funding. It's very possible that some of you listening today might have an active project underway with us. If you are a lead applicant currently on a CFIN project of any kind, you cannot be the lead applicant on a submission to us under this challenge call. If you still have an active project. An active project means it's approved with a master project agreement in place, your activities are underway, and you haven't submitted a final report yet. I can't have 2 active CFIN projects with the same lead applicant at the same time. However, our challenge program does take about 5 months for an approval. So if you're in the tail end of a project and you're looking to apply, you can reach out to us, but no active concurrent projects for lead applicants. However, you can be a partner very easily. So what is innovative? I mean, luckily, I think the cellular food space being fairly still nascent in many regards. It's the innovation is perhaps simpler sometimes to lay out versus perhaps areas of technology that have a little more history under their belt at this point. But we're looking for projects that have a real opportunity to be transformative. And that's the difference, I'd say, between a good and a winning project in our Food Innovation Challenge, is the opportunity for the impact, or at least part of the impact of your project to be felt beyond just your collaboration. Partnering with another firm to solve a mutual challenge is fantastic, but are there elements of the investment that CFIN would make in you or the outcomes of your project that could be accessed by other members of industry? Perhaps your, again, your bioreactor technology that you perfect is going to go to market and will be available for sale. If your plan as a result of your CFIN project is to take all the results and make them very secret and only available to your two partners, you're going to lose out points for sure on the transformative and sort of impact elements of our scoring rubric, which I will be addressing. We're also looking for something with a fair bit of risk. So generally, projects that involve, you know, building a facility and scaling your operation in you know, just to grow, for example, or projects that have more to do, again, with increasing output without necessarily addressing a big technological challenge, don't fare well in our program. So we're looking for projects that have urgency, that are transformative, that have risk, and that are necessary. And again, not to sort of you know, continue on the same point, but we are looking for research, development, and demonstration projects. If you're not familiar with technology readiness levels, I'll discuss them a bit on the next slide. It's a very common benchmark used by government and by innovators, I'd say globally, to describe the path to commercialization and what kind of activities fall in at different steps. We're looking for activities in a TRL of 1 to 7. We will allow late commercialization type activities, which are TRLs 8 and 9, to be part of a project, as long as 1 to 7 are involved. So 1 is you've got some basic principles observed, reported to that concept or applications being formulated. 3 is you begin to experiment and analyze early proof of concept. You get into validation in a lab environment, in a more relevant environment, in a actual prototype develop or demonstration in either a relevant or operational environment, and then you've got a tested product and it's proven to be successful. That's where we're getting into 8 and 9. So we ask throughout the application for you to address where you're at with certain components or pieces of technology. And so it can be helpful to familiarize yourself further with these stages if they're not something that you know very well. So what will we fund? CFIN's cost policy is that we will cover, first of all, activities and costs directly related to the project. So for us, we'll look at salaries and direct labor of your staff, people that you have on payroll. We'll look at consultants and subcontractors. That could be a university research center. It could be a testing agency. You know, we see groups like the Xerox analytical facility. We'll cover your materials. When we say materials, we don't mean high volume consumables. So materials are the items that are directly related to the project. I'm not going to fund your rubber gloves or your pipettes or the items which you go through at a large volume. And the reason for that is because we do give a significant cost coverage on overhead. And that's where those types of high volume, low value consumables are covered. We'll cover equipment, bioreactor, spectrometers, things that you need to carry out the work. Land and buildings, I would say to a certain extent, keep in mind we don't have 400 million in funding for this project. We're probably not your best bet to build out your facility. So keep those costs. Some people sometimes come to us with a large facility build out. Very difficult for us to support that, although we do have coverage for land and buildings. And then lastly, travel. So as I mentioned, we provide a 55% top up on any salaries which we call indirect costs. So this top up is our indirect cost coverage in the project to cover overhead. So it's meant to cover things like your general admin wages, your office supplies, your hydro, and we limit that coverage to 15% of the total budget. It can be quite hefty in some of our projects, and so that's where we'll cover things like your building lease or your rubber gloves or a new laptop for your process engineer. Your projects have to be incurred by the applicant and the partner and have to be necessary to carry out the approved project activities. And then when you build out your budget, it's your job to prove that that's the case. We're quite limited in our ability to fund activities taking place outside of Canada. In our program guide, we have a foreign cost policy. I can buy equipment internationally and bring it to Canada, and you can put it in your labs, but you engaging a research facility out of, say, Tufts University, where they're going to conduct significant portions of the project activities, that's considered a foreign cost, and it's very difficult for us to cover that. So if your project involves an international partner, you may want to consider how to minimize your costs incurred outside of Canada in your submission to us, and you're welcome to chat with us about that because we have a lot of limits on what we can fund outside of Canada and will not be able to take on huge volumes of international expenses. And as I mentioned, the program guide is really the spot to figure out, okay, what's an indirect cost, what's ineligible, what's a foreign cost, things like that. And it is something, of course, we review when we look at your budget to see if, we're seeing any ineligible costs within your submission. So how do you go about submitting to our program? It's a two-phase submission. We have changed it. So if you've looked at our Food Innovation Challenge program in the past, we have streamlined it. Our first step is an expression of interest. So when this program opens, it will open to expressions of interest where an applicant can certify that they meet the program requirements, and they'll provide 500-word responses regarding key areas of the project. I'm going to go into what those are in a second. You'll include here a preliminary budget and work plan. I need at least one letter of support from a confirmed partner showing, hey, I've got a collaborator, someone else is involved in this. And you have to provide me with financial statements for the lead applicant. Those who are retained to the full application stage, so some of the expressions of interest will be invited to submit a full proposal, not all. The full proposal is where you provide the fulsome responses. It's 2,000 words maximum. Not everyone uses that full amount, but it allows you to really lay out the full scope of your project. We'll give you feedback on the, on your initial submission and tell you, there are some things here you need to address that we have some questions about. Your budget becomes much more detailed and you lay out your expenses by partners. And each partner will complete a profile of their business with a fiscal year snapshot, their CRA business number, and they'll note that they're agreeing to being part of the submission, etc. So definitely at that point becomes your real fulsome submission. So when does all of this start? On Monday of next week, we will open the expressions of interest on our online portal. Those will close to applications on March 27th of 2023. And then we will do a review. It takes us about 4 weeks to do so. And we will invite the successful expression of interest forward to a full application. And then those will be due May 24th of 2023. Earliest date that we will consider costs in this intake is April 1st of 2023, and you would have up to 2 years to complete your project activities. So what kind of questions will we be asking? You're going to be providing a profile of your organization, including a snapshot of your last filed fiscal year. You're going to give us an overview of who your current or proposed members of your collaboration are, what their roles are. what challenge you're addressing, what are your objectives. You're going to give us a methodology. You're going to describe the innovation that you'll be developing if you're successful. You're going to outline what the commercial opportunity is and the potential market adoption. How does it align with our objectives? What are your commercialization and knowledge transfer plans? And what are the key technical and collaborative risks? So the risks of not only from a scientific perspective, but also in working collaboratively. What are some risks that you're identifying? And then, a budget, a work plan. We're looking for that letter of support and your financial statements. We won't be looking at late or incomplete expressions of interest. So you've got to have those pieces. And for the full proposal, it's fairly similar, a little bit more expanded. So who are all the partners? What are their roles? What's the background and rationale? Why is this your target? What have you guys done to date? What are you looking to accomplish in this project? What are your objectives and outcomes? What's your project design and methodology? What are the innovative, transformative aspects of the project? What are your innovation? How does this align with our theme? What's your knowledge transfer and commercialization plan? What are the benefits to your collaboration? What are the benefits to the wider industry if you're successful? And what are the risks? So you're building out on those initial questions further. We do try to really, at the expression of interest stage, really bring forward the strongest submissions. I do recommend, even though it's a two-phased, that your expression of interest very clearly demonstrates that you meet the requirements of the program and outlines, the compelling nature of what you're proposing to do along these areas. We do find at every intake that we have much more submissions than we do have funding. So how do we score your submissions? We use this scoring rubric for all of our food innovation challenge applications. And if you look at our program guide, it has this, but it also, or our call guide, it has this, but it also has, okay, under each of these questions, what is it we're expecting you to address? So this is used at both phases. The expressions of interest are scored by our staff. We bring in external reviewers to provide comments and insights. Not all of the projects are invited to the full application, and feedback is provided to the successful expressions of interest on how to address any concerns or gaps in their original submission. And then the full applications are reviewed by staff, mostly for, is the budget you're proposing eligible? Then the external experts are the ones who will do the technical and market assessments, and all the scoring goes forward to our Innovation Advisory Council and is recommended to our board of directors. So whatever decision they will come to then gets referred forward and approved by our board. So of course, our reviewers are engaged under NDA basis, and the information that they're reviewing, they've also been screened for conflicts of interest and things of that nature. So in terms of intellectual property, we're not here to take ownership in your IP. We're very interested in your IP. We want to know what it is. It's part of our metrics and milestones as a network to support the creation of new intellectual property. And we want to know that intellectual property that could be generated by our investments would be used to potentially catalyze further economic and technological development in the food ecosystem. So we want to see either that the IP could be disseminated or available to industry, so it could be sold or accessible in some way. We do have a rule regarding intellectual property, which we abide by, and we require all of our projects abide by, is that the ownership rights and the exploitation of any IP deriving from our funded projects must remain in Canada for a minimum of 5 years after the end of the project funding agreement. So, probably 2030. Unless otherwise approved in writing by the minister, that's Innovation, Science, and Economic Development, and that's on a case-by-case basis. So for those of you in this space, you might be looking at, of course, growth, exits, investments. It's something to keep in mind. Obviously, the Canadian government and us as the Canadian Food Innovation Network, we have a fairly strong interest in seeing intellectual property remain in Canada and the benefit remain in Canada. But of course, it can be licensed and sold, etc. But its ownership and the revenues of that ownership should remain in Canada for at least 5 years. Stacking, also a popular question. Can I stack? Can I go after other funding? Yes, we allow stacking up to 75%. You do have to outline if you have other support programs. And if you are looking to stack and you just want to check that what you're doing is all right, yeah, please contact us. Our regional innovation directors or myself would be happy to talk with you. Things we don't consider stacking is BDC or EDC type financing or SR&ED tax credits. That's not stacking. So it's more other government incentive programs. So if you're getting funding from another network type organization like Natural Products Canada, or you've got a project funded by a regional development agency like FedDev Ontario or IRAP, you'll want to just outline those funds to us so that we know what else is coming in. I'm going to invite people, if you have any questions, to please submit them. I'm not seeing any, which must mean that I'm doing an amazing job, which always feels good, but I do invite those. Feel free to pop them into the question box. We are coming a little bit to the end, and so this is a good time if you've got anything to share them. So if you want to apply, now what? As I mentioned, we have two key documents to this program. We've got the program guide and the call guide. Call guide is all about the specifics of what we're asking of you and what we're looking to achieve here. The call guide or the program guide is related specifically to the obviously the program. You have to be a CFIN member in order to apply. All the program details are posted on our website under the Food Innovation Challenge program. All the applications go into our online application portal, which is linked in every program document related to this call, but also on the website. And those are some of those key tools, and this info session will be recorded and posted. As I mentioned, we have 5 regional innovation directors across Canada. You're welcome to reach out to the one in your community to talk about this call or get connected with our programs team. So we have Lavina in British Columbia, Huba in the Prairies, Linda Fox covers Ontario, Julie in Quebec, and Tyson in Atlantic, Canada. If you are looking for someone who is a French speaker, Julie is probably your best bet no matter where you are in Canada. And I do want to highlight again, all our program materials are in French as well as English, and you can submit your application in French as well as English. I'm seeing some questions, so I'll address them, and then I'll go through a few slides here just to show you how to navigate our website. Someone's asking, can we send our expression of interest before the current program with CFIN ends? I think what you're asking is, can I submit my application before March 27th, when the expression of interest closes? Yes, that's fine. You can submit it at any time. Once it's submitted, it's in with us, and we'll start the review process, but you'll have to wait till we've reviewed all the submissions from the intake before we would invite you forward. So I think that should answer that one. How much is the minimum available funds that a lead applicant should have to apply? So if you are applying with a collaborative project, let's say you and another company have $1 million worth of expenses over 2 years for your project, you have to have your half of that project. So if your expenses in the project are $500,000, you're asking CFIN to cover $250,000. I'd like to see that you have 250,000. So I hope that answers. You need your half of the expenses because it's a collaboration coming together. Each party will be incurring costs usually and asking CFIN to cover them. And then each party needs to have sort of their matching portion of the expenses. Another question here, I'm seeing what if a company that is less than a year old and doesn't have filed financial statements? In our program guide, we do outline what other types of documentation we might accept if your organization does not have 2 years of financial statements. So I usually look for 1 year of incorporation, but I do understand that it's a pretty rapidly moving space. I would say we need to see that you have your portion of the cash. And so whether you're showing me a term sheet from an investor or other appropriate documentation that would demonstrate your financial capacity, that would be the bare minimum. You may also want to consider if you are the best lead applicant in that case. So if you are less than a year old, don't have any financial statements, might be a little difficult for you to compete against other submissions where we've got companies that are a little further along. We don't have a set number of employees for our applicants or minimum. The maximum is you can't be more than one member of your collaboration has to be under 499 employees. So that's just one of you, but I don't have a set minimum number. Usually, as I mentioned, I do look for 1 year of incorporation. Someone's asking, is there a minimum TRL level to the project? Keep in mind, we are looking for potential commercial results. I know the space is evolving very quickly, but if you're coming in with a very early concept, understand that your submission will be evaluated against the other submissions that we receive. And, part of it is the quality of the collaboration, the ability of the team to get the work done, and also the ability to impact, post-project. So if you're a long, long way from market, if you've got a concept, you may want to start with some other programs prior to coming in to use a food innovation challenge. But it is possible that one component of your project is very early in the TRL stage, while other elements may be further along. And someone's just asking, about this PowerPoint. Yes, it is available. Yes, this is being recorded, and yes, it will be shared afterwards. After this call, if you're wondering how to get started and you are not currently a member of CFIN, you'll want to go to our website and use this Join CFIN button right here. You'll be taken to a registration site. Our membership is free. Even if you're going to apply to this call or you investigate it further, decide not to, or whatever, highly recommend that you join us as a member. This is just one of 3 programs that we offer, and we'll be having other funds as well. And so it's worth, I think, staying in touch with us, and at very least a great way to find collaborators, partners, innovation, resources, etc. So joining as a member is your first step. If you're not a member, you can't apply to our programs. Joining as a member will give you access to our application portal. It does take us about 24 hours to get you set up over there. So just if you're going to go and become a member, go do that now. And then that way, a couple days from now, when we open the intake, your membership will be live and active. If you go to our website and you click this funding button, you'll be taken to a general overview. You can click on this green button here to be taken to our application portal, but also you can click funding and find a specific page on the Food Innovation Challenge. And we've shared that link just now in the chat. When you click Apply Now button, you'll be taken to our application portal. If it's your first time using the portal, but you've signed up as a member, what you'll do is you'll click Forgot Password, and you'll go in and enter your email, and you'll say, I forgot my password, and it'll trigger a password setting activity for you. It'll come to your email, you'll set that password, and voila, your access is now there. You can access the system. You can see here the select language button. You can access it in English or in French. It's the same system, just translated. When you log in, once you've created your organization, you'll see a window that looks a little bit something like this. I recommend as a starting point that you build out your organization profile, put in your address, make sure your contact information is right, and that you've got that set up, because that's once that's set up, this is how we'll be reaching out to you. Your open programs will be right here. If you click this right now, you will not see the Food Innovation Challenge. It won't be there until Monday, but then you'll be able to see open funding opportunities. And once you've started an application, it'll be here in progress. Once you submit it, it'll be in submitted, and then the outcome, whatever's happened, will be here. And everything in this lower section is for those of you who have active projects with us. So I want to say thank you for joining us, for taking a listen. This is an exciting space. It's been a good discussion and good questions here. Certainly welcome to continue that conversation. You can reach us at innovation@cfin-rcia.ca to be put in touch with a regional innovation director or discuss your project. As I mentioned, this presentation will be posted live online in the next 24 hours or so on our website. And I do recommend that you become a member of Yodel to access, even if it's not funding, just the connections. And we do have a lot of discussions going on at the moment online about cellular agriculture and cellular food, and certainly welcome companies working in that space to join that discussion. There's an effort here, I think, not only in educating consumers, but also the food industry in a wider way about what the possibilities are and what kind of cellular food products we already eat pretty actively today. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. We look forward to seeing what kind of great projects you're working on as we begin receiving the expressions of interest for this call on Monday, and welcome further discussions or questions. We'll call it a day, and hope to chat with you soon.